Nobody saw this timing coming, and that's exactly why it feels different right now. You could feel something shifting around the Warriors over the last few days, like the calm before something real starts to build. And then it hits all at once. Steph Curry is finally on track to come back after missing 27 straight games. And if you've been watching this team closely, you already know that number doesn't fully capture what it's done to this season. This wasn't just an absence. It changed the entire rhythm of this group, forced guys into roles they weren't ready for, and left Golden State trying to survive more than compete. Now here's where things get layered. Sitting at 36 wins and 41 losses, locked into that play-in range, this team doesn't have the luxury of easing back into anything. There's no runway. Every possession from here on out matters, and the margin for error is basically gone. The gap to the 6th seed is too wide, so this whole season is now about whether they can flip a switch at the exact right moment. And that question keeps coming up everywhere around the league. Not just if Steph is back, but what version of Steph is walking through that door. Before anyone could even settle into that conversation, the front office made a move that tells you they're not waiting around to find out. They're bringing in Charles Bassey, and this isn't some random end-of-bench pickup. This is a calculated decision from a staff that has seen this player up close before. Bassey just wrapped up his second 10-day with Boston, and instead of locking him in, the Celtics moved on. On paper, that might make people hesitate, especially when you see he's bounced across 4 rosters this season alone. But inside Golden State's building, that's not how they're reading it. What stands out is what he did when the lights weren't on the main stage. In the G League, he wasn't just productive, he controlled games. Over 20 points a night, double-digit boards, protecting the rim, and finishing at a level that forces you to pay attention. Efficiency like that doesn't just happen by accident, and the Warriors already had a front-row seat to it during his time in Santa Cruz. They've tracked the habits, the effort, the way he plays within a system. So while one team passed, Golden State stepped in with a very clear idea of what they think he can bring right now. And if you're following this closely, you can feel the chess moves lining up. This isn't just about filling a roster spot for the last stretch. There's a deadline coming up, and decisions around two-way contracts are about to collide with playoff eligibility rules. Nate Williams, L.J. Cryer, those are real conversations happening behind closed doors. If one of those deals gets converted, something else has to give. That could mean Bassey is here for a short burst, or it could mean he earns his way into staying longer if the injury situation keeps tightening, because that's the part nobody can ignore. This roster isn't healthy. The front court has been unstable, key pieces dealing with issues, and suddenly having a 6'10" body who can rebound and protect the paint doesn't feel like a luxury anymore. It starts to feel necessary, and that's why this move carries more weight than it might look like on the surface. Right always with Curry, if you believe he can still lead the Warriors to another great season. Now bring it back to the main event, because everything still revolves around number 30 stepping back on that floor. National TV, Sunday night, Houston on the other side, and a team that's been holding on just waiting for this exact moment. You don't sit out that long, watch your team struggle the way they have, and come back casually. That's not how Steph operates. There's something personal about this return, especially after seeing Golden State drop 22 of 33 without him. That stays with a competitor. And around the league, people are watching this closely, maybe even underestimating it a little. This isn't the same Warriors team from their peak years, everyone knows that. But what hasn't changed is how dangerous they become when Curry starts dictating the pace again, when defenses have to stretch, when everything opens up. It only takes a few games for that feeling to come back, and if it does, this play-in picture gets uncomfortable for a lot of teams real fast. Warriors fans, subscribe to the channel because we follow every move this team makes during the season and the off-season. At the same time, there's another storyline sitting in the background that longtime fans haven't ignored. Klay Thompson's situation in Dallas hasn't gone the way anyone expected. What looked like a clean move to chase another title has turned into something completely different, and you can sense the frustration building. That quote floating around, the body language, the direction of that team, it all paints a picture that doesn't sit right if you remember what he was part of in Golden State. And it leaves a question hanging there, quietly but not going away. What happens next with him? Because the league shifts fast. and situations that look set in stone don't always stay that way for long. Keep that in mind as everything else unfolds here. Comment, "The Bay still believes," if you trust that Golden State can rise again. So this is where things stand heading into these final games. Curry stepping back in, Bassey entering the mix, roster decisions looming, and a team that doesn't have time to wait anymore. The next stretch is going to reveal exactly what's left in this group and whether there's still something deeper there that hasn't shown itself yet. And if you've been around this team long enough, you already know. When things start lining up like this, it usually means something unexpected is coming right around the corner, because there's a tension building around this group that you don't usually see unless something real is at stake. You can feel it in how the rotation has been tightening, in how the coaching staff is managing minutes, in how certain players are being tested right now. This isn't experimentation anymore. This is evaluation under pressure. And Bassey walks into this at a moment where opportunity and urgency are basically the same thing. He's not being asked to develop slowly. He's being dropped into a situation where every rebound, every defensive possession, every screen matters immediately. That's a tough spot for most players, but it's also the kind of window where careers can shift fast. If he gives them stability inside, even in short bursts, that changes how this team can function on both ends. At the same time, keep an eye on how the offense looks the moment Steph is fully back in rhythm. It's not just about scoring. It's about how everything reorganizes around him. Spacing improves, decision-making gets quicker, and suddenly guys who looked out of place start looking comfortable again. That's always been the hidden impact with him, and it's something Golden State hasn't had for a long stretch now. Right, Curry is still special if you believe he remains one of the most unique players in basketball. There's also a quiet pressure on the veterans right now. This group has been through championship runs, deep playoff battles, and moments where they had to respond when nobody believed in them. That experience matters, especially in a play-in environment where one bad night can end everything. You don't get multiple chances to figure it out. It's immediate, it's unforgiving, and it exposes any weakness fast. And here's where things get interesting if you're looking ahead just a little. The way these final games play out isn't just about this season. It's going to shape decisions in the offseason, influence roster construction, and maybe even impact how aggressive the front office gets around Steph moving forward. They know the window isn't infinite, and moments like this tend to accelerate everything. If you've been following every update, every shift, every behind-the-scenes move, this is exactly the point where staying locked in matters. Because the next pieces of information aren't going to be obvious, and the difference between understanding what's really happening and just reacting late is everything. If this is the kind of coverage you've been waiting for, the kind that actually connects the dots before everyone else catches up, make sure you're subscribed right now. Not later, not after the next game. Right now. Because what's coming next around this team is going to move fast, and you don't want to be catching it after the fact. Comment, this story isn't finished yet, if you think the Warriors still have another chapter to write. And as all of this starts to come together, there's one detail that people around the league are watching closely, but not talking about enough. Because internally, there's growing attention on how this team responds the moment adversity hits again with Steph back on the floor. It's one thing to get your leader back, it's another to prove the group can actually sustain winning habits when the pressure spikes. The Warriors haven't just been losing games, they've been slipping in key moments, and that's what separates a team that competes from one that actually survives this stage of the season. Watch the late-game execution closely. That's where everything is going to be decided. Shot selection, defensive communication, who takes control when the clock is winding down. Those details have been inconsistent, and now there's no margin left to fix them slowly. It has to click immediately. And if it does, the entire narrative around this team changes almost overnight. Bassey's role fits into that more than people realize. Interior presence has been one of the quiet issues during this stretch, especially when rotations get shorter and matchups get tougher. If he gives them even a baseline of rim protection and physicality, that allows the perimeter guys to play more aggressively. It's a small adjustment on paper, but in playoff-style games, that can swing possessions, and possessions turn into results. Right, experience wins games if you value what the veterans bring to this team. There's also a mental edge that starts to show up this time of year. Teams that have been through it carry themselves differently. You can see it in how they approach preparation, how they respond after a bad stretch, how they close quarters. Golden State still has that DNA in parts of the roster, and the question is whether it can resurface quickly enough to matter. And don't overlook how opponents are viewing this situation. Nobody is lining up excited to face a Warriors team with a healthy Curry, even in the play-in. There's too much history there, too many moments where this group flipped expectations when it mattered most. That kind of reputation doesn't disappear, it just waits for the right moment to show up again. If you're a real Warriors fan and want to stay updated on everything happening with this team, subscribe now because things could get interesting very soon. If you're paying attention to how all these pieces are aligning, then you already understand this isn't just another stretch of games. This is where identities get revealed. If you want to stay ahead of every development, every rotation shift, every move that could change the direction of this team, make sure you're locked into the channel right now. Because the updates coming next won't be surface level, and missing them means you're always one step behind what's really happening. Comment "Champions never quit" if you believe the Warriors still have the heart of a champion. And as the clock keeps moving toward the play-in, there's still one scenario quietly building that could flip everything faster than anyone expects. Because if Golden State catches rhythm at the right time, even briefly, it changes matchups, momentum, and expectations all at once. That's the danger with this team. You don't need a long run, just a spark in the right window. And with Steph back, that spark becomes real. The next games aren't just about winning, they're about sending a message that this group is still capable of flipping a season in days, not months. If that shift starts, everything we've seen up to now becomes background noise. Right with Steph until the end. If you believe that as long as Curry is on the court, anything is possible. Stay close because the next update might be the one that changes everything. Subscribe now and don't miss what's coming next around the Warriors.